While there is certainly no shortage of sustainability demands, many executives and corporations are asking us whether there are still business opportunities in addressing these. My personal answer is absolutely yes. And I can give one very recent example, the Norwegian startup Consigli. Consigli provides engineering advisory services with a focus on AI and sustainability. We featured, in fact, Consigli last year in one of our webinars. Just last month, it got a $400 million buyout from Dallas-based ICOM, the global infrastructure engineering giant. Not bad for a company with about 10 million in revenues. Congratulations to CEO Janne Aas Jacobsen and her team. So we have to, before we start the webinar, I would like to introduce the speakers. Maybe Anna, if you can just stay with the previous slide just a little bit. I'm very, very thankful to have an eminent group of panel members who will share their insights on how they see the current lay of the land of business sustainability. First going to speak is Kristin Skogen Lund from Norway. Kristin is the chair of the board of INSEAD. She is an MBA alumnus from the school 92J. She was CEO of Schibsted, the very influential media and tech company from Norway. She has had many executive positions and was recently the Director General of the Confederation of Norwegian Enterprises. So let's say the captain of Norwegian business. Aaron Kramer from the US. Aaron is CEO of BSR, the global advisory company in the area of business sustainability. BSR membership group includes the leading names in international business, going all the way from L'Oreal to Nestle to Toyota to Google, you call it. Okay. Aaron brings a long and vast experience in sustainable business from the leading companies in the world. Aaron has been a partner in crime with me on the sustainability seminars for the past 5 years. Thank you for joining again. Tomoaki Ichida from Japan. Tomoaki has several hats. Tomoaki is Managing Executive Officer responsible for the Americas of Mitsui, also known as MOL, M-O-L. Mitsui is, as you know, one of the largest shipping companies in the world, operating more than 900 ships. He's also president of MOL Americas Holding, and he's CEO of MOL Switch, which is an investment company located in Silicon Valley, where he is living now. Mitsui has been at the forefront of making shipping more sustainable, and we will gain insight into the sustainability thinking of this major Japanese and global company. Pierre-Martin Huet from France. Pierre-Martin is managing everything ESG at the leading company in the global tire industry, Michelin. He is the Senior Vice President, Sustainable Development and Impact. As you know, sustainability has made a very strong formal commitment to making its business sustainable and successful about 5 years ago. As everybody, it's facing very strong headwinds, and we will learn from Michelin how it is thinking about sustainability globally and how it is navigating this very new environment. Having said all of this, I would say, let's start, Kristin, and please, the word is yours.
Thank you very much, Carol, and hello, everybody. Such a pleasure to be able to talk to you today, and thanks for showing up. Look, it's very easy for us who care about sustainability to get quite distraught these days about what's going on. We see that we are not achieving our goals when it comes to emissions and biodiversity, etc. It's still going the wrong way. And then we have the rhetoric that's coming, especially out of the US and the new administration there, which obviously will affect us somehow. Some are in the position where they can ignore it, but others are not. I'll give you an example. This Norwegian satellite company, KSAT, they monitor with satellites all over the world, and they have a very strong environmental agenda for example, monitoring deforestation, etc. But they have half of their turnover in the US. So basically how they deal with it is they need to change their website and how they communicate outwards. But I would say at the back of that, they haven't changed their ambition at all. They go on, but they need to sort of adapt a bit on the surface. Others may be based entirely in the US or having maybe a larger portion of their business there, might not be able to do that. And I'll give you another example. The International Maritime Organization, that I'm sure Tomaki knows really well, they set standards for the shipping industry, and they were about to ratify very ambitious environmental targets. And at the recent summit, when they were supposed to do that, the US delegation flat out threaten the members, either with tariffs at national level or legal consequences at the personal level. So what seemed to be a slam dunk ratification ended up being postponed for a year. So we have some serious setbacks, and it's not always easy to stay true to your conviction if you are facing opposition like that. So, but anyway, let's not dwell into all the negativity, because underneath all of these things are happening. And I would say, especially in China and to a certain degree, India, we see dramatic changes. And I take great inspiration from that, because, they're not seeing this as a burden. For them, new sustainable solution is their pivot and their modernization of their economy. It's really, really well embedded, and new sustainable products and processes come with great improvements. And it reminds me a bit, coming from Norway, we have been a bit of a pioneer within the use of electrical cars. And we actually did produce an electric car back in the days. It was called Think, and it was very small and very uncomfortable and didn't really have a heating system, which is not good in our climate. But then came Tesla, and guess what happened? Now 90% of all cars are electric. So the thing is, the new products, the new solutions, they must be better. They must be the pivot, the modernization. And maybe here in Europe, we've been a bit too sort of burden-ridden. Becoming sustainable has been seen as something that's a bit of a burden. It's heavy, it's difficult. But we should learn from the mindset from what we see out in the Far East now. I think that's encouraging. Anyway, so how's Europe going to find its way in this? I think it's fair to say that Europe maybe went a bit too far too fast, and that it has been good now to reverse some of the reporting requirements, for example, because are you going to be able to pivot and modernize your economy? You also have to be competitive, and you cannot have too many regulations that hinder that competitiveness, because then you end up not achieving what you want to do, which is to have new sustainable solutions. But I think an important thing to remember now, when we have all this headwind in terms of trends and rhetorics coming our way, all new things tend to come with sort of a big fad. I call it the stormy weather, where it's an upheaval about something new, a trend that everyone sort of jumps on, and then you tend to have a backlash, and then people pull back. But underneath, there is a fundamental shift. I call it the storm and the climate change. And in this case, it is the climate change that we're talking about. So make sure you don't become just part of the storm, that you go with it when it's on its way up, and then you retrieve when it sees its collapse or setback. Make sure you act on that fundamental trend. And when it comes to sustainability, that fundamental trend is there to stay. It is gonna have impact on how we operate and how we do everything, for sure. So don't lose faith in that will be relevant. And actually, you can also say that what's happening right now could be an opportunity. If you want to go counter market and act a bit against the trends, you might be able to take positions now that they're not the same competition for, because things are a bit out of favor. So you can also see it as an advantage of positioning yourself and get in the right market positions now when things might have cooled off a bit in your various industries. So I wanted to just say that. Don't get too distraught. Think of it as an opportunity. Finally, I wanted to just share some practical examples. If you can put up the first Schibsted slide. So I was CEO of Schibsted for 6 years. This slide is actually already 5 years old, but I'll quickly just show you how we went about integrating it into the strategy. Schibsted was a company, a conglomerate of 70 different companies. And the way we like to think about it was that Schibsted, the corporation, was the foundation where we did things shared, like we had capital, people, technology, data, etc. And then we had all the different brands and products that were the consumer-facing, value-delivering vehicles. And then we had a common purpose that we shared. And if you take the next one, I'll just show how we blended sustainability and made it fit into that same framework. So you have a foundation, which we within sustainability then called hygiene aspects, things that will not differentiate you, but that you need to have in order to operate, basically. Then you have the focus aspects and the ways and the vehicles for us to deliver value within our industry. So being a media and digital marketplace business, obviously privacy, protection of user data was a very important focus aspect, as was user safety and fraud protection in our marketplaces. Also responsible marketing that we had a lot of, obviously, within media. And then the diversity and inclusion and belonging part. But then at the top, let's say the purpose layer, we had what truly differentiated us and what drove us towards our purpose and really made us different. And that was our ability to empower circular and sustainable consumption via our marketplaces, the independent and high quality journalism that we deliver through our media platforms, and then how we used all these outlets to empower people to make informed choices, be that whether media information or marketplace access and ability to transact. So I wanted to show it because I think it's old, but I think it's a good example on how you can very easily integrate it and make it relevant into your total framework of the strategy of the company. Finally, before I pass on the word, I just wanted to say a few things also about INSEAD, because I think INSEAD has really, and you can change the slide now, Anna, INSEAD has really differentiated itself on sustainability and has been very, very active in the field for many, many years already, as you know. The way we think about it is in these 4 pillars that you see here. We produce knowledge through our research. And if you read the INSEAD Sustainability Report, it is actually a remarkable amount of publications and work that's being done by our faculty in terms of producing knowledge, improving how business is acting, improving, and seeing results from sustainability. Then in learning, sustainability is very, very embedded in our educational programs. In the MBA program, you have sustainability integrated in every core course, be it finance or operations or strategy. And so you see it all through the year in the different fields. And it's important there for us to introduce both the opportunities and the threats and understand all the different layers of it, going through all these core courses. And then towards the end of the year, there is a class that everyone needs to take, which is like a capstone project where the students put all of this together to see how it all fits across all the different fields and subjects. And then the task in that class is to create a competitive case out of it and sort of deliver your own competitiveness project within sustainability, so to say. And then in addition to that, of course, we also do a lot on the executive education side. We have many specialized courses and also embed sustainability in the general teaching and executive ed. Finally, we have 74,000 alums around the world. That's a very important source of impact. Many of you are here listening today. So the fact that we spread our knowledge, both through making available our research, but also by leveraging our students, our alumni, and the impact they can have and how they can take that learning they got from INSEAD out and apply it in their different jobs and roles. And then finally, are you going to be credible here? You need to walk the talk. So INSEAD is operating itself in a sustainable way and trying to go ahead as a very good example. So I think I'll leave it there, and then we can come back to some more questions and discussions later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristen, for giving this wide overview all the way from storm versus the climate change, which I find a very interesting metaphor, all the way to the commitment of INSEAD that is now communicating a lot on AI, but obviously we are following the major trends, again, leading the major trends. Second speaker, Aaron, I introduced. Aaron, I'm not going to say more. I'll let you about your topic.
Great. Thank you, Carol, and thanks to the INSEAD team for the opportunity. And first, I want to say, Kristen, I agreed strongly with your comments. Just to reinforce one point that you made, I think for businesses, it's really important to understand the difference between immediate shocks, things that arise, sometimes unexpected, sometimes the nature or timing is unexpected, versus what we call the enduring transformations, the things that are going, when we look back 20 years from now, will prove to have reshaped the operating environment for businesses. And let me focus on that for just a minute, because in the last, I would say 2 years in particular, and I'll speak first globally and then speak to the United States context. In the last 2 years, there really are some profound tectonic shifts that are changing the operating environment, both for business in general and also for sustainable business. So what are they? So first of all, we saw for some time strong momentum behind regulatory architecture that would require how businesses think about sustainability, everything from deployment of new technologies to reporting and disclosure. There's now a bit of a pullback in Europe. There is a complete 180-degree turn, of course, in Washington. I would hasten to add Washington is not the United States. It's in its entirety. I live in California, and California looks a little bit more like Europe when it comes to regulating matters related to sustainability. So that's number one. The second is we had seen a slow and steady convergence of standards, expectations, and activities globally. That convergence has halted. And in fact, we're now going through a period of regional fragmentation. And I would say it is true within regions or between regions. It's also true within regions. Someone smarter than I am said at an event that we hosted in Paris in October, said this: Europe looks to regulate, America looks to dominate, and China looks to innovate. And his point was China's probably on the best path of the three when it comes to sustainability. We've seen a shift from very big global commitments to a focus on delivery, and that, in my view, is largely but not entirely valuable. Maybe we can get into that. It's now 5 years from what I think in some ways was the high watermark for corporate commitments at the COP in Glasgow, where there were some very big commitments that companies, quite frankly, are not delivering on fully. And so now the focus really is on delivery. Sustainability has been at or near the top of the board agenda for a while. That's not really true. And from our work with boards, and we do a lot of work advising boards, it's not that sustainability is unimportant. It is that the agenda is exceptionally crowded. Geopolitics, tariffs, AI, these are all things that are dominating board discussions, and it simply means that there's less bandwidth for sustainability. We've gone from what was largely, not entirely, but largely a benign external environment to very significant questions around trade and geopolitics. And then finally, the information ecosystem continues to fragment and be plagued more and more every day by misinformation and disinformation. And that's very hard for a company to navigate. So it's not just about elections and politics, it's also about companies. So those are all of the dilemmas. Now, let me, and this relates to something Kristen said as well. I think there are a number of ways that the underlying realities show that the foundational reasons why business has been focusing on sustainability, not only because it's a good thing to do, the right thing to do, but the smart thing to do. As someone said, as people have been saying more recently, materiality, not morality. There are a few things that are as true and important as ever, and maybe more so than ever. So, number one, certainly is climate. We are breaching 1.5 degrees. We are breaching the planetary boundaries, the 9 planetary boundaries, and that creates a lot of volatility, uncertainty, and economic risk. And that's true for businesses, that's true for consumers. I live in California where the insurance market is frankly in a shambles because of risks related to wildfires. There are lots of examples elsewhere in the world. At the same time, advancements in clean energy continue to go strong. Availability is growing, efficiency is improving, and costs are falling. That is a good news story, and it's very important. Third, despite the pushback on diversity or DEI, however that is defined, the reality in the US and Europe in particular is our societies are growing more diverse by the day, if not the hour. That means that a company's customer base and employee base, they are also growing more diverse. So to turn away from corporate diversity efforts, as some companies have done, is inconsistent with addressing the things that companies' most important constituencies care about. And that's just not a winning strategy. So that remains very important as well. And finally, technology, as always, continues to advance. It's advancing. There are also risks and potential displacement. And if companies want to have the license to innovate, not just the license to operate, but the license to innovate, responsible both development and deployment of new technologies is important. So those are some macro conditions that are changing. Let me speak a bit to the United States. Obviously, we are living through a very unique set of circumstances. I say to friends and colleagues in Europe and in Asia and elsewhere, the new national security strategy that came out this week was for many of us in the United States a shock and a bit of a tragedy, to be honest. And so we are in an unprecedented environment. And let's be clear, the administration in Washington is very explicitly hostile to sustainable business, to reporting and disclosure, to efforts to address diversity, all the things that we know. And this is bringing massive regulatory changes, and this is not just the typical pendulum swinging between one party or another in the United States. This is an effort to undo a variety of principles that have been in place for decades. Kristen spoke about the IMO incident. At the same time, the United States is using trade policy to threaten Europe to push for withdrawal of the CSDDD, the CSRD. The administration is aiming to force companies to drop their commitments, and the administration is trying to undermine the ability of nonprofit organizations, BSR is a nonprofit organization, our ability to operate, tax-exempt status, et cetera, et cetera. So let's be very clear about this situation. Let's also be clear that the business response has been very muted and, in my opinion, in many ways, very disappointing. Let's recognize that companies cannot antagonize a White House that is quite happy to push back very hard when that happens. But I think there is probably room for companies to adjust their approach to the current administration. For BSR, and one of the things that we've been advising companies is that it is essential to say what you are for, not who you are against. What you're for, not who you are against. That should create room for companies to stand their ground. And this is not about woke capitalism, whatever that means. That means sticking to the things that are very relevant to business for business reasons. So what are some of these things? Constant changes in public policy, whether it's on climate or anything, makes planning virtually impossible. So encouraging more stability and continuity in public policy, that's a business issue. Unnecessary antagonism between trade partners creates economic uncertainty, heightens political risk. That's not good for business. In a global economy, we need global cooperation, and the fragmentation that's taking place is costly and it is disruptive, and that's not good for business. Allowing information ecosystems to continue to erode, that creates risks for business. Being forced to abandon commitments to diversity and other things undermines trust in corporate leadership. There's a large German company that we work with that did a U-turn on diversity because the United States government is a very large customer. It incited let's just say, a very spirited debate inside the company about what exactly the company stands for. And so you can't afford to lose the trust of your employees, your customers. And so if you abandon commitments, that creates a problem for business as well. And for American companies, brand America is an intangible asset that's very important. And frankly, brand America in many parts of the world has grown more damaged, and that has knock-on effects on companies. So these are all reasons why some of what's happening right now is bad for business, not because people have become ESG warriors, not because people have gone woke, but because they're trying to steward their companies in a global environment with a lot of change. And as Kristen said, I think it's crucial to consider a time horizon that goes well beyond the current state of play. I would say that there are signs that the political winds might be shifting in the United States. And let's just say that political risk as relates to the circumstances in the United States right now has for the last 10 plus months been seen as a one-way street. I think it's about to become a two-way street. And that means that companies, frankly, need to hedge their bets a little bit. And again, reinforce what are they for? What are the North Stars? What are the red lines? That would be my advice for companies, and stay focused on the reasons why all these changes are just bad for business based on business needs, business strategy, business purpose. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. So obviously you're pounding on the whole idea of business sustainability. So sustainability can work for businesses, but of course, so it's the business perspective that really cannot be forgotten. Okay, it has to be at the heart. Okay, thank you so much. Lots of ideas. Now we're shifting perspective quite a bit, and so we're going to look now at two very specific cases. First, Tomoaki with Mitsui. And again, it's an industry that has had sustainability challenges. It came already up. Tomoaki, the floor is yours.
Hi, can you hear me, Kyle? Okay. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tomoaki Ichida from Mitsui Airlines. Thank you for having me today. So please show the next slide, Anna. Yeah, thank you very much. So we are running a shipping business, and the core value of the maritime industry to deliver safety and peace of mind by transporting goods and people's security, and also supporting the daily lives and the well-being of the communities everywhere. Actually, the people don't know how the shipping company, maritime industry supports the local communities. But actually, we have a very, very important role in supporting the people's lives. So today, I would like to introduce a part of our activities as a shipping company originally from Japan, and how we try to transform ourselves from just a shipping company to ocean infrastructure company in the future through our activities in sustainability. So next slide, please. Yes, and this is at a glance of IMOL. So we are established in 1884. So this year is the 141st anniversary of our history. And we are running more than 900 ships all over the world. So we are the second largest shipping company in the world. The biggest one is the Chinese Costco, but they are the government-owned company. So we are the biggest in the private sectors. And MOL has a commitment to achieve net zero by 2050. So today I will introduce you how MOL, make lots of action towards 2050. Yeah, next slide, please. So we are running the variety of the ships. So that is just a part of our shipping business. We run lots of dry bulkers, which carries grains and iron ore, etc., etc. And also we are running tankers, carrying the oils, chemicals, many things. And also, we are running the gas carrier. Actually, MOL is the largest LNG ship owner and operator in the world, running more than 100 LNG carriers. And also, we are running the car carrier, container ships, even the cruise ship, etc., etc. Yes, next, please. Some of you may know that shipping is a very, very important role in the supply chain. In globally, 90% of the total goods trading in export and import. So 90% of the goods are moved by the ship. So most of the goods around yourself will be transported by the ships. And on the other hand, so our responsibility in the global trade is very, very big. As a result, our emission of the GHG also quite a big. So currently, around 700 million tons of CO2 will be produced from the international maritime shipping, which is equivalent to the one from the Germany itself. It's about 2 to 3% of the total emission from the world. Yeah, next slide, please. So as a result, MOL has a commitment to achieve net zero. And this is our sustainability plan. So we set the 5 pillars as shown on the right-hand side. And so safety and value, environment, human and community, innovation and governance. So to make a lot of activities and actions in the 5 pillars, and then we will try to achieve net zero by 2050. Yeah, next, please. So this is the image of our pathway towards 2050. The shipping is so-called as one of the hard to abate sector. So there is no one single solution to achieve net zero by 2050. Therefore, we make every single effort to reduce our emissions. So the green one is to apply the fuel saving devices or maximize fuel efficiency or something like that. So the orange one is we apply the lower carbon emission fuels like LNG or methanol. And the blue one is hydrogen and ammonia, etc., etc. But even though we applied those measures, it's very hard to achieve net zero by 2050 because life cycle of the ship is relatively long. So we are also working very hard to create a carbon credit business shown in pink. Yeah, next, please. So this is our business model, how to develop our decarb the business. Of course, that this is a big, big challenge for shipping company. But at the same time, this is a big chance for the MOL to diverse our business portfolio. So from reducing our emissions, and gradually we will apply the decarbonization actions like utilizing the net zero fuels, something like that. And also not only the transport the cargo, but also we will diverse our businesses from the upstream to the downstream in the supply chain. Moreover, we will developing the carbon removal business in nature-based solution and also tech-based solution. Yeah, next, please. We will make a lot of things, but it's very hard to achieve our goals. So there is a huge ambition gap shown in green. So in order to narrow down this ambition gap, we established a corporate venture capital here in Silicon Valley called MOL Switch. So MOL Switch focus on the next gen energies, CDR and CCS, and the new technology and so on. Yeah. So this is our portfolio. On the left-hand side is the startups, and on the right-hand side is venture capital. So our strategy is to make an investment to those startups which has climate technologies, and then we will create something new, which brought to the value to MOL. Next, please. So this is one of the example. We are currently working for developing a floating data center. So we run 900 ships, and every year we have 10 to 15 ships going to the scrapyard. So in order to, instead of scrapping our old ships, we will convert our old ships to the data center. So our Silicon Valley team working very hard to deploy this floating data center. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
Sorry. Thanks. Thank you so much, Tomo. Fascinating view from the shipping industry, and there are many questions for you coming in the Q&A in terms of shipping that indeed has such a huge footprint and how you're doing it. And so you're giving already several clues in terms of what you can do yourself, but then interestingly coming to Silicon Valley, okay, to really complement your efforts with what you do internally. And so probably you can say a couple more things about that later on. But the fourth presenter, Pierre Martin from Michelin, has also an extremely interesting story on a company that has made strong commitments and now is in many ways trying to figure out how to continue. Pierre Martin, I leave the floor to you.
Thanks, Karel. So very happy to be with you today, and we are going to move from the ocean world of Tamaoki to the ground world of Michelin. So if you go next slide, Anna. Next slide. I just want to emphasize that sustainability has been at the heart of Michelin long-term success. We're a 130 years old company, and we've been innovating in social and environmental field for many years. Just to give you a few examples, 1902, the first free medical care on site provided to all our employees. 1992, the first low emission tire. At that time, we were really visionary. And later on, it led to the full transformation of the tire industry. And lately, the Global Fair Wage Initiative that we deployed in 2023. Why we do that? Because we have a strong conviction at Michelin that there's no sustainable financial performance if we don't take care of our people, if we don't develop our people and our talents. And if we want to do that in a sustainable manner, we need to take care of the environment as well and the planet, because the planet supplies a lot of the materials we use to manufacture our products as well. So this conviction is really deeply rooted in the company, and we think that you can deliver high short-term profit built on the misery of people. But if you want to be there in 20, 50, 100 years, you need to have the right sustainability approach, looking at people, profit, and planet all together. If you go next slide. So we face headwinds, and we've heard Aaron and Christine mentioning some of those. We're a true global company. 40% of our business is in the US, including government contracts. At the same time, we're very strong in China. Our brand is number one in the tire industry in China. We used to supply a lot of raw materials from Russia, so it's been a big challenge for us. And last but not least, we supply the mining and defense industry. So if you look at all those different ingredients and you think the sustainability strategy we need to deploy, it's a bit of a challenge. And if you go next slide, it's a challenge that we see every day. You can go next slide, Anna. Where we are actually managing a big stretch or a paradox between, on one side, the decline of ESG and the extreme volatility of the ESG framework, and on the other side, increasing demands, increasing requests from our stakeholders. To give you a few examples, starting with customers, we've never gotten as many requests from OEMs and from car manufacturers on ESG-related topics than this year. Requests that are increasing around 20% versus last year on all kinds of topics. Human rights in the value chain, the content of our products, the carbon footprint of our products, the circular content of our products, the chemical substances that are in our products, all kind of ESG-related requests. Second is investors. So it's quite an interesting one, I think, because we saw last year and earlier this year a big silence from investors. And some even told us, we don't care about ESG anymore, so we are not interested in your information. And then they came back, and we're at a point where we've set up monthly calls on ESG-related topics to answer investors' requests. At the start, it was mostly European, but now we have Asian and North American investors as well. And they ask questions mostly related to risk management. So how we adapt to what is our exposure to climate change, how we adapt, how we tackle human rights in the value chain, especially on the China sourcing part, the pollution of our products. So many interesting questions there. And last but not least, employees, where we see a growing interest or a strong interest from our employees. We updated our sustainability intranet a few months back, and in 3 months, we got 30,000 visits. We're 130K employees in the group, so it's quite significant. So if you go next slide, how we do and how we handle the situation in this challenging context. Anna? Thank you. We maintain the course, but more than ever, we are focusing on 4 sustainability domains where we believe we can have a lasting impact and a differentiating impact in the market. So there are 2 planet topics, 2 people topics. The 2 planets topics are first, being the global leader in energy efficiency of our product. So when you ride on a Michelin tire, basically you consume less fuel, or you get a greater autonomy if you drive an EV car, roughly 15 to 20% better. It's good for the planet. It's good for the wallet of the driver as well. Second part is what we call material mastery. We have a huge know-how and many patents in material science. We leverage that to increase the lifespan of our products. This is really our brand signature. We're recognized for that. If you drive on a Michelin tire, you get roughly 20% more mileage versus a premium competitor and 50% more mileage versus a budget tire. On the people side, we are a reference in terms of safety, it's part of our brand signature as well. And we work as well on the social impact side, taking care of the working conditions of our employees, the human rights in our value chain, and as well the training, talent development, career opportunities of our employees. If we move to the next one, why we believe those 4 quadrants are more than ever relevant in this context is that they all relate to multiple stakeholders. The 3 right-hand quadrants, they relate directly to economic benefits to our customers. They're good for the planet, but they provide tangible benefits and economic benefits to our customers. And when it comes to social impact, it relates to the employee retention, the engagement, and as well the risk mitigations when it comes to the value chain for our investors. So next, what we've done, so we focus on those 4 domains, but we've gone a step further and we are reviewing, Anna, next slide, please. We are reviewing thank you, all the different sustainability topics, looking at 2 axes. On the first one, we look at the customer valorization. So what is the customer willingness to pay for a given feature? You can see that the mileage of our product definitely there's a strong willingness to pay. When it comes to the water consumption of our factories, there's no willingness to pay from our customers. Now, in some countries, it's a license to operate. We have factories in Mexico, in Spain. It's definitely a license to operate if we want to ensure the business continuity. The second axis is looking at the dependency on norms and regs. We've seen that there's a high volatility in regulatory frameworks, and we see that depending on the topics, they are more or less dependent on the norms and regs. Mileage of our products, it's a good value, whatever the norms and regs. When it comes to circularity of our tires, the content of our tires in terms of renewable materials, there's a customer willingness to pay if there's a regulation linked to that. And we know how fragile those regulations are. So it brings us 2 big questions, and I will conclude there. The first one is, where do we want to differentiate and to increase our differentiation on some of our topics? And second, where should we have a global ambition versus a regional ambition? Because we believe we can really optimize our investment in sustainability by differentiating the roadmap by region in order to get a better return on investment. So I will conclude my talk here. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Pierre-Martin, for a very specific view on where Michelin is thinking, excuse me, and where it is heading. A lot of enthusiasm in the Q&A box and so many questions. Vic, the director of the center here, has been prioritizing them. Vic, so I think the first question that I see in the Q&A box is kind of interesting. Do you really think that CSRD has had an impact on the governance of firms in Europe? Which is like saying, whatever. Okay, maybe Kristen.
Yeah, I mean, some, but like I said in my opening remarks, I think they've gone too far and it's become a competitive burden to a certain extent. I chair a company called Delivery Hero. We have 6 full-time employees just to do environmental reporting. They could have helped push this agenda instead of just doing the reporting. So I think it's gone too far. And I think Aaron said it well, you can't win this by regulating. You need to do it by innovating and gaining the competitive advantage in the sustainable products. That's what we need to do. Just quickly, one more thing on investors. I have to also say I've been a bit disillusioned with investors. We also always reported on ESG in our presentations. I hardly ever experienced getting any questions or concerns about it. But mind you, we were a media company, not a heavy industry company or something. But still, I think there's still some ways to go before these things are where they should be.
Yeah, but the point of Pierre-Martin was interesting that the investor questions are coming back. Okay. So there's a second question that I see there from Philippe Rochemont. Given that there's so much company action depending on regulatory ambition, given the focus on defense and bloated finances, how can sustainability be a competitive advantage? And maybe Aaron, if you can tackle that one, I think it's an interesting question. So much pressure on countries, and then where's the bandwidth for competitive advantage? Yeah.
Well, look, I think there's always bandwidth for competitive advantage. The question is, what are any company that ignores that, I think, is creating a bleak future for itself. That said, I think the priorities are indeed shifting, and there is increased push in Europe, in particular, to address defense spending. I would argue that the whole the fact that energy is now being considered in part through sovereignty and security, that frame, which is very linked to defense, means that what is the most localized source of energy? It is clean energy. And so for any business, let alone any government, to try to ensure that access to energy is sustained, it leads you to clean energy in most cases. Not all. The Saudis might view it differently. The Russians might view it differently. Many Americans view it differently. But I think that is an important part of the equation. And so, in my view, the all of the ways the world are changing, they should not be seen as distractions from sustainability. We should think about how sustainability can be part of an answer to these fundamental transformations.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with you, Aaron. No surprise. So many questions regarding shipping and Tomahawk. So you're seeing them as I see them. But I think there is kind of an interesting one in terms of pursuing the alternative clean fuels. Okay, do you consider the entire whole carbon chain, or do you just what exactly is clean? I think that's really what the whole idea behind the question. What is clean in your mind when it comes to shipping? Okay,
Yeah,
is it
thanks
just
so much.
your operation, or is it the entire business behind it?
Yeah, thank you very much. As I said in my quick presentation, there's no one single solution, and there's
Yeah.
no one single fuels to help us to reduce our emissions. So in MOL, we tried lots of solutions like developed wind setting devices which reduce 8 to 10% of our fuel consumption. And we deploy around 3 to 4 devices onto our ships already, and we can see the significant reduction of our marine fuel. So in terms of the marine fuel, at the moment, we try to convert our marine engine applicable to the LNG or methanol because we can immediately reduce around 20% of our GHG. But at the same time, we are looking at the potentiality of a bio LNG or green methanol or blue methanol and so on. So if those fuels will be available at very economical, competitive price, so we can immediately convert our marine fuel to those things without any investment to the new infrastructure. Of course, the hydrogen, ammonia could be best one because those fuels will not generate GHG. But we have to make an investment to the huge investment to the infrastructure. So at the moment, there is no clear answer. Therefore, MOL try to bet on every single solution at the moment. And in terms of the other industry other than maritime, of course, we try to aggregate those demand. One of the example is Japanese utility, JERA, will start the ammonia combustion in their power plant in Japan. And there will be the demand to import the blue ammonia or green ammonia from the outside of Japan to supply to their power unit. So MOL will transport ammonia to the JERA. And at the same time, we will utilize ammonia as our marine fuel. So in such case, both JERA and also MOL will be a big user, or which creates a demand for the fuel ammonia. That is one of the examples.
Okay, thank you so much. Very interesting. Okay. Pierre Martin, so you mentioned that investors are again asking questions. Okay, so there is a question on this. Are investor questions purely about ESG on a standalone basis, or are they mainly focused on the factors that have a material financial impact? In other words, what are the questions of investors right now?
So actually, these are related to topics that have a material financial impact for the company. Typically, all the business continuity issues we could have related to climate change, water stress, etc. Or they are linked to the reputational risk for the company, especially when it comes to our natural rubber value chain, the deforestation risk, the pollution linked to our products. So there are, I would not say that investors are purely thinking about the common goods, and they're obviously looking at the risk in terms of for the company, but which is precisely their role as well.
Okay, so both angles are being raised. Vic, you're looking at you're hearing me, right, Vic? We may have time for just one question. If you see one that is, or please, any panel member, you can jump in. If you see something and say, well, I would like to speak to that issue, because time is just without any mercy right now.
So one question that came up was quite interesting. We're talking about energy, and one question was, what about maybe a floating data center that will ensure the sustainable energy supply? And really, anyone can take this, because I know that AI is on our minds, and sustainability certainly is on our minds.
Tomoaki, all eyes are on you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, we started this study just 1 year ago. So we are moved very, very quickly at the moment. Currently, the data center facing the three big problems. The one is a shortage of power, the shortage of the land, and the shortage of the water. And if we place the data center offshore or on the water, anyway, we can utilize the seawater as the cooling system for the data center. And as for the land, of course, there is no restriction to place a data center on the water side. And as for the power, that is one of the critical issues. At the moment, we have already made an interview with hundreds of the ports all over the world. And some of the ports can supply lower emission power or zero emission power from the shore. So in such case, we utilize those power renewables from the shore to the data center. But just in case we are facing the shortage of power, or even in the emergency case, we have power generation ship. So at the moment, our power generation ship run with the LNG. But as I said, in future, we can utilize bio-LNG if it's available. So if we attach all the technologies into the one data center, it could be a good solution for the data center operator. In terms of the sustainability of environments, probably the ship recycling is one of the big challenge for the shipping company. It's not, to be honest, it's not a good environment for the labor or something. So if we can extend utilization of the ships, it's definitely good for the environmental protections. So that is our motive.
Thank you so much, Tomoaki.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, it's 10 o'clock and we have to conclude this first webinar. where we have not enough time as usual. Okay. First, I would like to thank the panel because of very eminent speakers who are bringing very different perspectives. Thank you. Lots of questions. If you don't mind, I'm going to send them to you. And if you have time, you can always, of course, respond to them quickly. We're going to post them on the website. Okay. The only thing, Anna, if you can quickly just show one last slide. There was a lot of talk regarding competitive advantage, all right, and how can firms do this? In February, we're going to have the second session, and we're going to start specifically with a clinic on a company called Big Lighters that many of you know as just casually or as a user, that is using extreme circularity, and circularity has become a growth and resilience driver for the company. So we're going to spend an hour with the CEO to really understand how this circularity has become a source of competitive advantage. Okay. Having said all of that, we will continue to communicate with you. There are many other messages, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thanks again for being with us, and looking forward to the next webinar. The only thing I need to say is happy holidays.